It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
You know the line. I mean, you have to. And it just perfectly sets the stage for what we're about to get into with Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. It's a story all about extremes.
Exactly. We're jumping into the period between 1775 and 1793. And our two cities, well, that couldn't be more different. You've got London, which is relatively stable, if not perfect.
And then you have Paris, which is just about to explode into total chaos.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to give you a real shortcut into this massive novel. We're not just running through the plot points. We're going to unpack how Dickens uses this history to talk about huge ideas.
Huge ideas like resurrection, sacrifice, and this devastating cycle of revenge and social injustice.
And it all centers on this core group of four people whose lives just get completely tangled up. There's
Mhm.
Charles Darnay, he's the French aristocrat trying to escape his family's awful legacy.
Then Lucy Manette, the golden thread who sort of holds everything together.
Her father, Dr. Manette, who is literally brought back from the dead, in a way. And then there's Sidney Carton.
Ah, Sidney Carton,
Uh,
the brilliant, cynical lawyer who looks just like Darnay and, well, has this incredible heroic potential hidden underneath it all.
But before we even get to them, Dickens gives us this one single image that basically tells you everything you need to know about the violence that's coming.
It's so powerful. It's that moment a wine cask breaks in the street in the Paris slum of Saint Antoine.
And what happens next is chilling.
It really is. The people who are starving just stop everything. They rush to the street and scoop up the wine. They suck it from the paving stones. It's an act of pure desperation.
But it's more than that. Dickens makes it so clear that this spilled red wine, it's a symbol for the blood that's going to be spilled later.
Yeah, and the people are already, in a way, drinking it up. It's a terrifying forecast.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, in 1775, because that desperation, that hunger, it didn't come from nowhere.
Not at all. I mean, France at this time is a total system failure. You've got these completely incompetent kings, an aristocracy that could not care less about the suffering of the people.
And just crushing extreme poverty for everyone else.
Right. And Dickens shows us that those conditions don't just create poverty, they create this deep, burning desire for revenge.
And right in the middle of all this, we meet a very proper Englishman, Jarvis Lorry. He's a banker for Tellson's, very by the book.
And he gets this mysterious message. It's the key phrase for the first part of the book.
Recalled to life.
Exactly. Laurie is on his way to meet Lucy Manette. She's a young woman who thinks she's an orphan.
And he has to tell her this impossible news, that her father, Dr. Manette, isn't dead. He's been a prisoner in the Bastille for 18 years, and he's finally out.
Just think about that, 18 years. So when they get to Paris, they go to this wine shop in Saint Antoine run by a man named Ernest Defarge.
And Defarge is a key figure. He used to be Dr. Manette's servant, but now he's a leader in the growing revolutionary movement.
He is. But the real engine of vengeance in that shop is his wife, Madame Defarge.
She is one of literature's most terrifying characters.
Mm-hmm.
She's just always knitting.
Always knitting. But it's not a hobby. She's knitting a list. She's encoding the names of the enemies of the revolution into her work.
It's a hit list, basically, a tapestry of death.
It's inhuman. She's become this relentless force of vengeance, not just a person.
So they go up to the attic, and they find Dr. Manette. But he's not the man he was. He's broken.
Completely. He's just compulsively making shoes. It's the only thing he learned to do in the dark of his cell to, keep himself from going completely insane.
So the shoemaking is basically his trauma, made real.
It is. But then Lucy, with her golden thread of hair, her voice, her love for him, she starts to slowly bring him back. This is the first act of being recalled to life. She pulls him out of that darkness.
So that's our foundation, this glimmer of hope in all this despair. Now, we jump forward 5 years to 1780, and we're back in London.
And this is where Dickens does something brilliant. He gives us another, much darker version of being recalled to life.
Through Jerry Cruncher.
Yeah, Jerry Cruncher. The porter at Tellson's bank seems like a normal guy, but his night job.
He's a resurrection man.
Which is a very polite way of saying he's a grave robber. He digs up bodies to sell to surgeons for dissection. It's this gruesome, literal parallel to the whole theme of the book.
And it's here, in London, that all our main characters finally collide in a courtroom.
Right. Charles Darnay, the French aristocrat who's been living in England, is on trial for treason. Spying.
And it looks like he's going to be executed. He's basically doomed. But then Sidney Carton steps in.
Well, steps in is a strong word. He's mostly just sitting there, this brilliant but alcoholic lawyer looking bored.
Right. But he notices something crucial.
He notices that he and Darnay look almost identical. They're doubles, so he uses that resemblance to confuse the witnesses, to plant just enough doubt.
And it works. Darnay is acquitted. This sets up the whole idea of them being mirror images. You have Darnay, who's noble and successful.
And Carton, who is just as brilliant but is completely cynical and wasting his life. Two sides of the same coin.
And of course, they both immediately fall in love with Lucy Manette.
Of course. Darnay is the one she chooses, but Carton has this incredibly moving moment with her where he confesses how much he hates himself.
But he says she inspires him, and he makes her a promise.
A prophecy, really. He says he would do anything for her or for anyone she loves. It's the first real hint of the hero that's buried deep inside him.
But all this personal drama in London is about to get swallowed by what's happening back in France. We have to go back to Paris.
And we have to meet the embodiment of aristocratic evil,
Yeah.
the Marquis Saint-Evremond.
Darnay's uncle.
Huh.
And the scene where his carriage runs over a child in the street,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a gut punch.
And his reaction is even worse. He doesn't see a dead child. He sees an inconvenience. He just tosses a coin to the grieving father.
It's that absolute entitlement. The belief that he is above humanity, above consequences.
Which makes what happens next feel almost inevitable.
Darnay is horrified, of course.
Yeah.
He tells his uncle he wants nothing to do with the family name, with the inheritance. He's trying to break that cycle of cruelty.
A crucial decision. But that very night, the Marquis is murdered in his bed. The father of the dead child, Gaspard, got his revenge.
And he leaves a note signed Jacques.
The revolutionaries are starting to act. The system can't protect the powerful anymore. The tide is rising.
Fast forward a bit. It's Darnay and Lucy's wedding day. And Darnay finally tells Dr. Manette the truth about who he is. That he is an Evremond.
And the doctor just snaps. The name triggers the trauma all over again. He has a complete relapse and goes back to making shoes for 9 days straight.
It just shows how deep those wounds are. They're not just historical, they're psychological.
And right after that personal crisis, the historical one finally explodes. It's 1789, the mob storms the Bastille.
And Ernest Defarge knows exactly where to go. He goes straight to Manette's old cell.
And he finds what he's looking for. A letter hidden by the doctor all those years ago that explains the entire crime that got him thrown in prison. It's the evidence, the justification for everything that's coming.
But before that can be used, Darnay gets a letter himself. It's from his old family steward, Gabelle, who's been arrested.
And Darnay feels he has to go back, a sense of duty. He decides to go to France to try and save him in 1792.
He's walking right into the storm.
The book calls it being drawn to the lodestone rock. He can't escape his family's past. And the second he arrives, he's arrested. Not for anything he did, but just for being an aristocrat who left.
So Lucy and her father, they follow him to Paris. And luckily, Dr. Manette is now a hero of the revolution, a former Bastille prisoner.
That status gives him incredible power, and he uses it. At Darnay's first trial, the doctor's testimony gets him acquitted. For a moment, it looks like they might actually be safe.
For a moment, but that same night, he's rearrested, denounced by the Defarges, and a mysterious third person.
The game has changed. And this is when Sidney Carton arrives in Paris. He sees that things are now hopeless, and he starts putting his final plan into action.
He needs inside help. He finds a spy named John Barsad.
And recognizes him. Barsad is actually Solomon Pross, the long-lost brother of Lucy's governess, Miss Pross. Carton uses that secret to blackmail him, to get access to the prison.
And what he finds out is just devastating. The identity of that third person who denounced Darnay.
It's Dr. Manette himself. Unwittingly, it was through that letter they found in his old cell.
So at the second trial, Defarge reads the letter out loud, and the full story comes out.
The story of what the Evremond brothers, Darnay's father and uncle, did. They assaulted a peasant woman, murdered her family, and then imprisoned Dr. Manette just for trying to report them.
And then comes the final, shocking twist, the personal connection that drives everything.
Madame Defarge stands up and reveals who she is. She is the sole surviving sister of that peasant family. Her entire life, her knitting, her hatred, it's all been for this moment. It's a blood feud.
And just like that, Darnay is condemned to death. Not for his actions, but for the sins of his father.
Dr. Manette just collapses. The knowledge that his own story has condemned his daughter's husband is too much. But Carton is ready.
He uses their resemblance one last time. He gets into the prison, drugs Darnay, and swaps clothes with him.
He sends the unconscious Darnay out to be taken away by his family back to England. And Carton stays behind, to die in his place.
But there's one last piece of business. Madame Defarge is coming for Lucy and her child.
And Miss Pross, Lucy's fiercely loyal servant, stands in her way. They have this incredible, brutal fight.
And Miss Pross wins. She kills Madame Defarge, but the gunshot renders her deaf for life. Even survival comes at a cost.
A terrible cost. And then we have the end. Carton at the guillotine is finally at peace. He's redeemed his wasted life. He delivers that immortal line.
It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done.
He dies seeing a vision of a better future for Lucy and her family, including a son they'll name after him. His sacrifice, it finally breaks the cycle of revenge, at least for them.
So when you pull back from all this tragedy and heroism, what is Dickens really saying? What's the takeaway?
Well, I think it's a profound critique of a historical cycle. He's not just condemning the aristocracy. I mean, the evils of the Marquis are laid bare for all to see.
But he's just as critical of the revolution's excesses.
Absolutely. The reign of terror, the bloodlust of the Defarges. He's warning us that when you replace justice with pure, blind vengeance, you just create a new kind of tyranny that's just as monstrous.
So against this huge, chaotic historical backdrop, the novel really seems to value individual actions, the power of love and sacrifice.
Yes. Lucy's golden thread of compassion and Carton's ultimate sacrifice are what achieve redemption. They save people, individual souls, from being crushed by the machine of history.
And it all really comes down to this idea of inherited guilt, doesn't it? Darnay is condemned for what his ancestors did, even though he tried to be a good man.
Exactly. Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on after this deep dive. The novel suggests that breaking free from this kind of inherited injustice needs a massive, almost impossible sacrifice.
So the question for you is, what do you make of that idea of generational guilt? Is an individual's attempt to be better like Darnay renouncing his name, is that ever really enough to break the cycle of a systemic wrong, or does it always require something bigger, something more radical?
It's a heavy question, and it's one Dickens forces us to ask, and it feels just as relevant today as it did then.